everybody, welcome to the Introspect podcast. So, I got a lot of good suggestions about what to start this podcast off with, seeing as that it's the first episode. But I think one of the most significant subjects to talk about is going to be good and bad men. And I think it's really important. I think it's really significant. I also think it's pretty relevant. Obviously, we just passed Father's Day. So I'm going to really dive into it. I'm really going to dive into the father aspect of being a good or a bad man. And then there's a couple other factors like knowing yourself, values, your personal beliefs, and then like phases of maturity or phases of maturity. So with that being said, I think it's a really interesting perspective that I have just because one, it's my own, and two, I'm only 23 years old. I may feel older, but I'm only 23 years old. Okay, so I'm going through my own experiences as far as figuring out if I'm a good or a bad man, or if I've been a good or if I've been a bad man, and am I doing the right things or the best things to be a good man, right? So I think one of the most important factors is going to be how you were raised. And there's something to be said about mothers, there's something to be said about siblings. There's a lot of different factors that go into being raised, but I think one of the most important ones for men is the father figure that you have. And or mentor, right? Or just somebody you look up to, because not a lot of people grow up with their dads or with a dad or with a father figure. So and then even in later ages, people finally discover they'll finally discover somebody they want to take after, somebody's footsteps they want to follow in, right? So speaking on myself, I have a biological father and I have a stepfather. Now, my biological father made some really stupid decisions, and he's been in prison since 2004. Okay, so we're on like 16 years, a little over 16 years now, right? So unless I really reference biological father, we're not really going to talk about him. Aside from the fact that I learned just about everything not to do from my biological father. And it's an unfortunate situation. It really is unfortunate. But I'm very grateful because now I know what not to do, right? I know what things lie in my genetics that I shouldn't indulge in. And it's just, it's going to be as simple as that, right? So for the most part, we're going to be talking about my stepdad, who, at the point I'm at in my life now and the point he's at in his life now, and really we've been this way for a long time, is that, he's my dad. So for the first couple, I guess, I feel like it was only a couple of months. I don't remember exactly, but I called him by his first name, I did. Because I didn't know, I was 4 years old when my stepdad decided to assume the role of my father. Right? And at that time, I actually had a younger brother. He was an infant. He was only a couple of months old. Okay? So, with that being said, I'm at a point now where he's my dad, and I've been at that point for a long time. So, it only took a couple of months for me to start calling him dad just because he assumed that role and he stuck around. I mean, it's been 16 years that my biological father's been in prison, and that now my new dad, well, he's not my new dad anymore, but he was my new dad. So my new dad is my father, right? He's my father figure. He is who I'm learning after, or learning from, and taking after, right? So they've also, my mom and him, they've been married for, I think it's like 15 years now. So it's been a long time. I think he's really earned that role of my father. So with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about how he raised me, him specifically, not necessarily my mom. I'm going to involve my brother, my younger brother, a little bit here, and the fact that I also have a younger sister by my stepdad. Okay, so we're gonna get into that a little bit here. Now, when I first met my stepdad, right, I didn't really like him. Now, yes, I called him by his first name, but that wasn't exactly a representation of why I didn't like him. I didn't like him as much because he implemented discipline in my life. My mom, I've always been a mama's boy. So she didn't really discipline me because I always was just like, oh, mommy that and mommy this and mom, can I have this? And she was like, of course you can have whatever you want. You're my firstborn child, right? Now, my new dad comes in and he's like, no, you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. You're doing things that require consequences, right? And but who, if anybody else, aside from my father, should teach me that, right? Nobody. Really, it should be my dad, right? So that's what he does. He comes in, and I don't know this as a 4-year-old, but he comes in and he's like, your privileges are taken away for doing this. For, you stick your finger in a socket, you may get your hand smacked, right? And I'm not saying that's what he did specifically, but I'm saying, that's the idea of, punishment, right? Is that you do something you shouldn't do and you pay the price, right? Got to pay the price. So that being said, from I guess 4, right, until maybe my preteen years, I just accepted him as my dad. Now, he wasn't very emotionally connected to me. So this is just an addition, right? He has his own son with another woman before he met my mom, right? And, so that guy would be my stepbrother. He's not really in the picture, though. Okay, so we'll just leave that said. Now, with that being said, my stepdad decides he's going to take on the role of being, one, my mother's partner, right, and eventually husband, okay? And then he's also taking on the role as my dad and my brother's dad. So he's stepping into a relationship where not only is he a partner in a relationship, but he's a father now. And yes, he was a father before with his own child, but now he's a father of 2 kids that aren't even his. But he accepts that, and he accepts us as his children. He does. It may have taken some time. It may not. I don't have great recollection of that time period, right? But, eventually, he did. He accepted us as his own kids. And I respect that, because there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for being in a relationship and a successful relationship, for 1. 2, to accept the role of being a father of 2 kids that aren't yours. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been, right? And me being the badass little child that I was, and my brother, who was a little more, undisciplined than I was. So, I got a lot of respect for him for doing that, and it's just the bottom line. But with that being said, so he decides to take on this role, right? He decides to assume the role of a partner and a father figure. And he starts putting discipline, into my daily routine. Because, that's the kid I was. I was always doing something that maybe I shouldn't have been doing. And I'm saying that from my own perspective, okay? So, same thing goes for my brother. We're always doing something we shouldn't have been doing. Whether it's like little things, running on the furniture, you get the picture, right? We're doing something we shouldn't be doing. We get things, we get consequences. And so immediately I'm like, who is this guy, first of all? And why is he coming into my life and he's telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing? My mom never did this. My real dad never did this. So why is this guy doing it, right? And little did I know, as, a 4 to 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, right? I'm like, he was really looking out for me. He was really teaching me things. They were indirect teachings, but now I'm older and I've come to understand the types of lessons he was teaching me, right? So, I get to my preteen years, and I've got a biological father who's in prison, and I got a new dad, right? He's not new anymore, but he's a new dad. And here's another addition. So my stepdad, he actually got in trouble when he was like 18, 19, somewhere around those years, maybe younger, maybe after. But it made it really difficult for him to get a job in his early to mid-20s. Okay. Now, he was getting some jobs every once in a while, low-paying jobs. I've worked those same kind of jobs. They suck, right? I'm sure you guys have too. If you haven't, you should, okay, because it teaches you a lot. Well, with that being said, so for the most part, my mom was supporting our family. My mom was supporting her husband, right? My dad. She was supporting me, my younger brother, and then soon my younger sister. Soon after, my dad and my mom got married. Okay, now I'm preteen, right? So I'm starting to develop my own perspective on life, my own perspective on the world, and what should and shouldn't be, and this and that. And so I'm looking at my dad and I'm thinking, why is he teaching me anything? What does he know if my mom is supporting our family and not my dad, right? Because I'm not necessarily a traditionalist or a conservative or any. I don't really take political standpoints, right? It's just not what I enjoy doing. I don't like labeling myself, but I do like to believe that the man should be a man, right? He in the sense of like assertive, and he's bringing home the bacon. He's helping. He's the main supporter of the financial stability of the family, right? I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback for that, all right, and I respect it. I know what comes with I know what comes with my beliefs. Okay, I'm ready for it. I actually would like you guys to tell me what you think about that. That's fine. But with that being said, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, okay, if he's not doing these basic things that I feel like he should be doing, why am I going to listen to him? Why should he be telling me anything, right? So then I start to develop my own kind of pushback towards my dad, right? And then it eventually develops into resentment, okay? Because in my later teen years. So then I move out of the house, right? And I start, if I thought I was developing my own perspective then, wait till I move out of the house, wait till any of you move out of your house. You really start to develop in your own perspective at that point, okay? Because you get to experience life under your own power completely. Obviously, I'm not excluding God, right? Because there's that a whole, that's an entirely different subject, and I'll get into that in another video. However, I'm developing my own perspective on things, on life, relationships, manhood, womanhood, all these different things, right? Everything, okay? So I start to discover what it really means to be selfish, and also what it really means to be selfless, okay? And selfish, by definition, is going to be putting one's own interests above another's. And then obviously the opposite for selflessness, right? Putting another person's interests above your own, okay? And I think that you need both of those things in order to really be a good person, right? Or to be yourself, right? I think there needs to be a balance is what I'm trying to say, okay? And there was a phase where I went through trying to be really selfish and just focusing on myself and seeing where that got me. And then there was a phase where I was trying to be really selfless and see where that got me. And they both didn't end up really well. It was just too much of this and too much of that. And I'm kind of an extremist, so I really went all in on being selfish and really went all in and being selfless, only to find out that you actually need both. Okay? I think everybody needs both. Now, it can be situational. The circumstances really determine whether or not how much of a selfish person you should be and selfless, and there's just that whole thing, right? So now, and so there's a point to that. And so now I'm like, I'm 20, right? I'm 19 to 21. Okay, I'm those couple years, right? I'm really starting to realize at that point that maybe my dad was going through his own phases of maturity or selfishness and selflessness when he was becoming my dad, right? So I think I failed to mention that my dad was 22 when he took on the responsibility of being my father, okay? So, and I'm 23 now, right? So I'm only kind of past the phase that he was going through, I suppose, when he was my age, right? And again, everybody goes through these phases differently and at different times in their lives. You can be 22 going through the same phase as a 50-year-old, right? It really just depends on the path of life that you're taking, okay? But the point is that I forgave my dad because maybe he was going through his own phase of maturity that made it really difficult for him to understand whether or not how he should be a father or if he should even be one, Maybe at that point he was like, I bit off more than I could chew. Or maybe not. Maybe it was the opposite and he just didn't know what he was doing. He wanted to do it, but maybe he didn't know what he was doing. I don't know, right? I haven't had enough in-depth conversations with my dad to really understand what he was going through at that time in his life. So, but with that being said, I think it's really important to understand what phase of maturity you're going through. Okay? So, right now, I want you to press pause. I want you to ask yourself, what phase of maturity am I in right now? You know, what are phases of maturity? What does it mean to be mature? Ask yourself these questions, okay? And we'll kind of get into, yourself in a minute, right? But just to kind of, cap off the father aspect of this conversation is, I'm at a point now, again, where I'm asking myself, am I a good or a bad man? I've forgiven my father for the things that he's done. I think that he's forgiven me too. At least we've discussed that. And then I've realized that there's a lot of things that I really didn't even need to forgive him for, because I shouldn't have been upset with him for those things in the first place. Because he was just growing up as an individual, as a man, just as much as I am now. The only difference is that he was a father of multiple children at the same age that I am now. And I am married, but I don't have kids. I have a dog, which is basically a kid. I'm just kidding. It's not basically a kid, but I treat him like a kid. I love my dog. Okay, so we will say that. Now, anyways, the point is that you really need to evaluate how you were raised, how this person that you're asking this question about, whether it's your own dad or your brother, whoever it is, right? Figure out and analyze how they were raised, how you were raised, and that's going to be the first step of the process, right? And then you need to figure out how they have developed as a person, right? What level of maturity are they in? What level of maturity are you in? I think if you don't know yourself, you can't really ask anybody else this question, because you're coming from a biased opinion. And it's a biased opinion that you have no say in, because you don't know yourself enough to even have your own opinion. So, with that being said, I know I was kind of all over the place with that one, but you got to figure out how you were raised, how they were raised, right? Why you're asking this question. Is it because you want to be a good or a bad man yourself? Some of you guys are crazy, man. Some of you guys want to be bad men. Some of you guys think it's cool to do all these, bad and negative things, right? And then there's that whole subject of morality, right? Which is just a whole other thing. And then you got to ask yourself, what are your core values? What are the core values of the person that you're asking, right? What are their beliefs? What do they believe in? And then there's religion. There's religion is its own thing, right? Its own thing. You got things like trust, right? What do they invest their time in? Love has got to be one of the most important factors of anybody's life. But I'm going off on a tangent here. That's not what I'm trying to do. Okay? So just ask yourself, what level of maturity am I at? What is maturity? I think the point of this episode is I'm just provoking you guys to analyze your own life. Okay? Are you being a good man or a bad man? And for the women out there that are watching this video, I can't say a whole lot about women, all right? Except for the fact that I love them. I love my wife, right? I love her. I love my mom. I love my sister. I love women, okay, in general. But I can't speak on your guys' situation too much because I'm just not a woman. I'm a man, right? So ask yourself about your values. Ask yourself about your beliefs. Start a discussion with somebody about this subject. Start a discussion with me. If you guys got feedback, leave them in the comments. I'm going to put my email in the description box so you guys can email me your own questions. And if you want me to talk about them on these podcasts, I can do that. But the bottom line is that you got to ask yourself these types of questions. My buddy asked me, and that's why I'm talking about it, because I think this is an important topic. Okay? There's going to be many more of these videos, but if you did like this one and you think it can be improved, like it, subscribe to my channel, and let me know. Email me, leave a comment. Either way, I'm going to get it. I'm going to respond to you. Let's improve ourselves together. I'll see you guys next week.